everybody, it's your boy Jack here, and today in this video I'm going to be talking about this comic here, Boom! It's the Doomsday Clock issue number 2. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to be talking about the Doomsday Clock series on my channel because it's a good, I like the comic, I really did like the comic, also for a bunch of different reasons, but yeah, I'm going to be covering this in this, I'm going to be covering this whole series on my channel as they come out. I'm going to be, for those of you who haven't seen my comic book haul, I also have issue number 3, so I'm going to be doing that next month. But yeah, those are, like, I'm going to be talking about this issue though in this video, issue number 2. I'm going to be breaking down my thoughts about this issue, the first 2 issues, this issue as a, on its own, what I like about it, what I dislike about it, why I'd recommend it to you, and everything around that. So let's dive into it. So, how I'm going to break down this video is into 3 parts. The first 2 parts have to do with the story of the comic, and the third part has to do with the art choices and everything like that. So, part 1 is the first part of the comic itself is a robbery scene that takes place where the mime and the marionette, 2 people that were taken in from the last issue, they're robbing a bank. And I really do like this sequence because it is such a stereotypical basic scene, and you understand what's going to go on with it because everybody's seen at least 400 robberies, bank robberies in movies and everything, and seeing this in a comic scene, it's like you have a basic understanding of the of what's going to happen in the story itself. But the one thing I'll say is the one thing that you don't really you have a basic baseline of what's going to happen, but it's more this scene is more importantly supposed to be there in order to support the 2 new characters. I think the choice that the authors made into this was because they really want to get the reader to have an understanding of these 2 comic book characters and why they are so important here, and what kind of personalities they are, what kind of superpowers they have, or what kind of fighting style more that they have and everything, and what really does make them unique. You obviously have the mime who just doesn't speak, but just is brutally has some great husky brute force and stuff. And then along with that as well, you have the marionette, and she is just she sort of is very much like Harley Quinn. She plays around, she flirts with everybody, and the one thing that I like about her is she has her strings, and the strings just cut off people's stuff and everything. They cut off the one guy's finger, and that was awesome. I really do like this because it really, I got a really great understanding of who these 2 characters are past their non superhero personality, or non-regular civilian personality or whatever that we saw in the first issue. And I really like seeing that development there. And I think it was just a great storyline to develop, and I'm excited to see how these 2 characters are going to fit into the 3rd and 4th issue. So yeah, I think I like them. Part 1, really good first part. And then you have part 2, and what I really like about the second part of this is it really, you have the beginning of the second part, which sets up the end of the comic issue itself, and I love that. Obviously you have the sort of the crossover where it's where the mime and marionette, they go into the owl ship or whatever, and then it connects to the protesters protesting and everything that you saw in the opening shots of the first issue and everything. And you see them protesting there, and the one person's what is that in the sky? Ends up being a missile and blowing them up. Big thing, and I love the artwork there. I'm going to talk about that a bit more in the art section of this review, but I really did like that. That had a really good crossover and everything, and then also as well, the Rorschach paintings that Batman was looking at, Bruce Wayne was looking at, as a part of insurance and everything for Bruce Wayne, or for Wayne Industries or whatever. And I like that too as well, because it was funny. It was something that you really got to focus on, because it's like you have like 3 paintings, but that sets up the last half of the movie, the last half of the comic itself. This issue, it sets it up. So it's like you got like the one where it's like the one with Batman and Rorschach meeting, one with Ozymandias and Lex Luthor meeting, and the third one with which I'm pretty sure is the one where like they escape. I'm pretty sure there was 3. I know there was 2 for sure, but I really did like that because it set up that second half there, and it sort of there's a bit of like the thing that I love about this too is like with the Rorschach paintings that he saw, there is some interpretation there that you can look at to try to maybe foreshadow the future of the comic series itself and like how that may go. So I like that. I think it was awesome. And I really like that because it was a really great transition between the first part and the second part, and it bridged together really well. Shout out to the clock for going off. So the so like obviously besides this the good transition, the second act is phenomenal. Like what they do, the writers themselves, they obviously like pin up the mime and the marionette and everything. Like Rorschach and like Ozymandias are like, no, you're staying here, we're locking you up in the ship, all that kind of stuff. That was like that was interesting because it was just sort of like come on, like these 2 people are sort of like criminals now. It's like, come on, like do you not think they're gonna escape? But like I like that. I thought that was interesting because it was just like, yo, like the degree of trust here, like we can't really trust these people and everything, and I like that. But yeah, besides that though, I like how it sort of got set up and everything, where it was like there's irony in Ozymandias' mission, where he's like, okay, now we're flying to Gotham, we're in Gotham, it's like a new city, all that kind of stuff. And Rorschach goes to meet Batman, and Batman has his own moral code, same like Rorschach, and is like typically looked at as good and everything. And like is looked at as a superhero and everything rather than a supervillain. And then you look at Ozymandias, who's been looked at as a villain rather than a hero, going to meet another villain of Batman's, and I think maybe Superman's too, don't quote me. But yeah, and I like that because it was just sort of ironic that it's like that's sort of where those storylines are going. It's like the one meeting the villain, the one meeting the hero, like those paths and how they like divide and everything. And I like that great direction that they took between those 2 storylines, where when they met, when Ozymandias met Lex Luthor, they were in this great big open space, and you really had to, they sort of had to convince each other to have a conversation and talk to each other. I like that because it was like the big open space, and there's like so much open opportunity there. There's a bit of a representation of like the open opportunity of danger, and I really like the direction that they took there with this comic. Something that I liked about it as well, and I like about this comic series overall, is the lack of dialogue. Like especially in a lot of these scenes, because it's a visually dependent comic. And I like that how like that whole scene was sort of like that, like the open space and their conversation themselves. I thought it was really well done, and I thought it was really good. Along with that as well, with Rorschach going to meet Batman, he's going the complete opposite route, where he's going through the actual Batcave itself. It's tighter. There's a lot more like history there. It's basically like Rorschach 2 is getting a tour of the Batcave, and I like that too because it was just sort of like a Batman fan. I like the whole like tour that he was going through and everything, and like the little like callbacks to different like superheroes, all that kind of stuff, and like history. I liked that. I thought that was awesome. I like how it was like the tighter space and everything. And when they finally met each other, they showed like Rorschach actually showed the Rorschach painting on his face, sort of foreshadowing the actual story itself, and I loved that. It was sort of like a great final scene there. And I like how it was sort of like they were both like, I forget what they said, but it was just a really clever way of foreshadowing the story itself, and like, honestly, love that. So yeah, like I like the directions that both of them went in this story itself. They had a really great direction. visually and everything. I also like the dialogue and everything. Like, although there's a lack of dialogue, there is a really great narration, and then like although there's a lack of dialogue, like, it's not crazy, it just more helps guide along the story itself. And I really do like that about this, like, both parts, but more specifically this second part. But yeah, overall, I like this story. Like, the story sort of tells itself and like unfolds in such a great way, and I love that, especially with part 2. The only one thing I'll say is, obviously the comedian is back trying to kill Ozymandias, and I'm like loving that, because I'm pretty sure it was Ozymandias that tried to kill the comedian, like killed the comedian. And it was sort of like a WTF moment, because it's like, wait, how's he back? Because like, isn't he like long gone? And like, part of me is like, technically wouldn't he be the, like, he could obviously be like the comedian number 2, sort of like how Rorschach's like Rorschach number 2 now. I'm not 100% sure, just because like I'm gonna have to read the next issue to see, but like, that is exciting. I like how he's sort of shooting at him and being like, I'm back. Just because I was like, how's that not a great moment? And like, the comedian's like a really great villain too, because he has like the big like build and everything, and like has like the great like costume and everything. So I'm excited about that. I like the cliffhanger that they left it on. So yeah, overall, let's dive into part number 3, the final part here, the art. The art in this issue is phenomenal. There's less of a focus on Rorschach's face, and they actually like use the Rorschach paintings sort of as the Rorschach paintings that Batman sees as a way of foreshadowing and everything, and I think that's just really great. Like, there's less, I think, because there's less of a focus on Rorschach's face with the direction and everything. I think that's just like better too, because it's not just like a Rorschach focused story. There's a bit more of a it's a bit more focused, less on him as a character, and it's a bit more of a broader storyline that can be told, so it's not just like a one person's perspective, but more of a multiple person perspective. Along with that as well, there isn't a like last issue, the first issue was like they had a stereotypical 9-page panel where there was where each page had 9 panels, about the size of like a playing card or something, and that's how the story was told. And this one takes a lot more creative liberties, where you have 9 actual panels, and like I don't think there's one page that has exactly 9 panels. A lot more of them have like wider panels, or like have a lot more chopped up panels and stuff, and I like that as well, because I like the creative liberties that they've taken and everything. I like the visuals that they have, so you get a bit more of an idea and everything. I feel like maybe the playing cards, if they were like the playing cards where it's like the 9-page setup, like the 9-panel setup, would have really restricted the story itself if it was just set up for this comic. And I like how they were doing they were having like the 1 row setup, or like the 2 like the half a row setup, where it was like 2/3 of like 1 row was taken up for one actual like strip itself, and I like that. Besides that though, it's still an easy path for the eye, and I like that as well. I think it's because of it being an easy path, I still have an idea of how to navigate and everything. There's a great understanding of how to connect the first issue with the second issue, and I love that as well. And like, I don't see that, like I see that with some comics, but not all comics, is the idea with the story itself and how they incorporate the story, and I think it's just great. Also as well, this is one thing I don't like about like the Avengers and certain Marvel comics, is they have so much dialogue there, and it's like, I'm not in the mood to read a chapter book. I want to read a visually dependent comic book where like there is a bit less dialogue and everything, and that's what I love about Watchmen, because it tells a really great story itself and has a really great understanding of where to narrate as a narrator, but also where to talk, like where to input dialogue between characters. And I love that, because I felt like I was more like reading a movie rather than like watching, like reading a comic book or a book itself. Like, I like that. Besides that though as well, my favorite piece of art in this comic was the missile sequence. It was like one whole row where it was like chopped up little pieces of, like chopped up little slivers of the actual comic itself, where you'd have one, like each strip, and it would be like the missile hitting the people, and then the, like, just a whole yellow background with like bodies disintegrating and everything. We're going right up to the owl ship and everything and seeing them react, and that was just a really great sequence because it was a beautiful callback to like the first Watchmen. It was also as well, it was a really great, just really interesting depiction of that. Obviously most comics don't really show that, but like it's sort of graphic and it's sort of emotional. It also in a way destroys part of that storyline that they had in the first issue as well, and overall I really do like that. That was just a beautiful, beautiful like piece of art. But like along with that as well, this comic has phenomenal art. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know about your thoughts about the Doomsday Clock issue number 2. Besides that, feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit post notifications if that's something you're into, but like I understand why not, just because like it's been a bit spotty lately with like the notifications with like YouTube wise, so I can get why. But like either way, feel free to let me know what you think about this down below in the comments. Besides that, thank you so much for watching, and bye!